Good evening. I'm Adriana Cotero. This just in from the governor's office, the Centers for Disease Control has expanded its criteria for determining persons under investigation for coronavirus, and the 6 countries identified include Japan and Korea. Public Health Director Linda DeNorsi says local screening efforts must follow the updated criteria. This means all deplaning passengers from Japan and Korea will need to be observed for signs of lower respiratory illness, such as coughing or shortness of breath. This story is developing. No details are available yet on how local officials will conduct the screening. More information on the new criteria is posted on the CDC website. An economic storm is headed for Guam, and the Chamber of Commerce is urging the government to join forces so we can all get ready. Chairperson Christine Balletto says they've been flooded with calls and emails from small business owners and workers fearful about the impact of the expected plunge in tourism arrivals.
Those tourists spend money in the hotels, they spend money in restaurants, and if the businesses are not getting that revenue, they don't have anything to pay their employees with, and that's the reality. And so, we're really concerned about the folks that are having their hours reduced. We're concerned that it could, as things worsen, lead to layoffs. And, that's what we're really trying to avoid.
And the Payne says Balletto has already started. She's heard personally from employees afraid of not being able to support their families.
One of the ones that just kind of broke my heart was someone called into the chamber, said that they normally have 5 days of, the nightly shows at the hotels. They've already been cut back to 4, and he was really fearful that he was going to lose his job as things get worsened. I mean, when you hear that there's absolutely no bookings in April, we're already 20,000 down in March. I mean, we're bracing for things to get worse.
To help ease the blow of a downturn, the chamber has called on government leaders to postpone the minimum wage hike and roll back the business privilege tax. But so far, those pleas have been rejected by both the administration and the majority in the legislature.
We need to talk about real solutions to help people keep their jobs. If anything, consideration of rolling back the GRT, at least for our tourism industry.
She says if they won't listen to the chamber, then government leaders need to organize meetings where they can hear directly from the people.
It's so easy to think of the chamber as this faceless organization that just represents big business, but reality is we represent those employees that are hurting. We represent small business. Government workers make up 11,000 of our employment sector. The private sector is almost 50,000 employees out there. So we really need to hear from the private sector and bring them to the table, and let's talk about solutions. I mean, if what the chamber is proposing is not feasible, then what can we do to help?
For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
A pair of local economists sounded the warning bell during a special economic service meeting Thursday. The SES brings together the government and private sector's top financial experts. Bank of Guam Chief Economist Joe Bradley says we could run into some serious problems unless the coronavirus issue is resolved very quickly.
We've already seen an enormous dropout in visitor arrivals. 15.2% for month to date. February is a lot. That's if that continues for the whole year, we may see a substantial, like $100,000 decrease in visitor arrival, 100,000 passenger decrease in visitor arrivals, and that would be disastrous, not only for the government revenues involved, but also for the business community, employment in that industry. That industry is roughly accounts for about 40% of Guam's economy.
Labor Department economist Gary Hiles said based on his research, there are virtually no new travel bookings to Guam out of Japan and Korea. So it appears that in the short term, the decline will continue until the coronavirus concerns are alleviated. Meanwhile, the government is sitting on about $20 million in unappropriated revenue from fiscal year 2019. The governor planned to use that to pay down the deficit, but now says she could use it to bridge any revenue shortages from an economic downturn. But Minority Leader Senator Tello Taitigui questions whether the governor has the authority to spend that money. She says it should revert to the general fund, where it would be up to the legislature to decide how to appropriate the money. She wrote the governor asking her to cite the law that gives her control of the funds.
Because we're in a crisis right now. I know that revenue that is coming in is being jeopardized by this coronavirus. So hopefully we'll have the answer by the governor, and then when we know the audit amount, then we know who can really spend that money, if she is allowed to, or that the legislature must appropriate that money.
Tidegui says she's waiting to hear from the governor's legal counsel. She asked but got no clear response from both Administration Director Ed Byrne or Budget Director Lester Carlson at Thursday's special economic session meeting. Is there too much traveling going on with the Democratic leadership in the 35th Guam legislature? One senator says her colleagues don't need to accept every free trip that flies their way. Chris Barnett takes a closer look at whether these trips are really for the betterment of the people of Guam or themselves.
Speaker Tina Munya Barnes and Legislative Rules Chair Senator Regine Biscoe-Lee are on a free trip to Fiji. The two senators in the Democratic supermajority leadership are attending a United Nations Development Program parliamentary workshop. Both were invited by the UNDP because, according to the Speaker's office, Guam serves as a beacon within our region. Now, this isn't the first free trip the Speaker has gotten from the UNDP. It isn't even the second free trip, or the third. The Fiji trip is the fourth free UNDP trip Speaker Barnes has taken this term. Her office says as Speaker, she's given a courtesy invite to every UNDP event in the region. The free trips including airfare, hotel accommodations, transportation, and per diem. And while two of the top Democrats in the 35th Guam legislature are off island until next week, Minority Leader Senator Tello Tidegui caught up with us after attending a coronavirus briefing at Adelup, right here on Guam.
We have a crisis right here at home, and taking trips just because it's free, where are the priorities of these senators? I think the important thing right now, considering the state we're in with the coronavirus, taking these trips, whether because it's free or not, should be reassessed. I mean, there's a priority right here at home that we need to address right now.
Meanwhile, Senator Lee, who is the legislature's most frequent flyer at $16,000 in taxpayer-funded travels this term, is on her second UNDP-funded journey. She attended the UNDP Pacific Women's Forum in November with Speaker Barnes and Senator Mary Torres. We asked her to justify this latest trip, and she said she's, quote, continuing to answer a call to partner with UNDP that can grant Guam access to millions in aid that are part of the organization's global effort to fund sustainable energy projects and other programs that help uplift developing nations and territories.
So I guess the real question is, do we want to be a member of the United Nations, or do we want to be what the people elected us to be, and that is the senator, to serve the people of Guam?
We asked the Speaker's office to provide any info on any United Nations grants given to Guam that resulted from their travels, but they didn't provide any information on that. Speaker Barnes has taken free trips to United Nations events in Hawaii in February of last year, Australia and Chuuk in November of last year, and now Fiji. Senator Tidegui telling KUAM News she feels like every time she turns around, one of her colleagues is off island, and she wonders if it's affecting senators' ability to do what they were elected to do.
The dates on session have been very sporadic, and it begs to ask the question, are you doing this based on somebody's travel arrangements, or what's best for the people of Guam?
Tidegui, who took a free trip to Taiwan in June of last year with the Speaker, Senator Clint Rigel, and Senator Kelly Marsh Taitano, said just because trips are free doesn't mean they don't come with a cost. Tidegui acknowledges that, along with Rules Chair Lee and Legislative Secretary Senator Amanda Shelton, she is a top three traveler. Shelton and Tidegui have both racked up some $9,000 in taxpayer-funded trips. Meanwhile, Speaker Barnes has presented on gender equality and equality strategies and strengthening Pacific parliaments together at UNDP events. Barnes, Senator Torres, and Senator Lee have also given talks on women's political participation and violence against women in politics and social media use. Now, according to the latest reports from the legislature, your senators have spent $67,000 on travel in this term, but that number is currently being updated to reflect trips your senators took in January and February of this election year. For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports.
On October 1st of last year, Mark Torrey Jr. asserted his right to a speedy trial. Now, months later, and the case has yet to head into trial. This afternoon, two motions were argued. The underlying non-parties motion to quash a subpoena that was served by the defense on the Guam clerk of courts, and the larger matter at hand, the defense's motion to dismiss the case with prejudice. Here's more from Superior Court. Administrator of the courts, Christina Baird, said the defense counsel is on a fishing expedition and the clerk of court is the fish. Defense counsel Jay Areola stood up and said, scary. Scary to hear the Superior Court administrator lacks transparency. #transparency, #Sunshine Act. Further, the defense counsel stepped behind his client, placed his hands on Mark Torrey Jr.'s shoulders and stated, help, and then went on to read the memorandum Judge Michael Bordalio sent on January 8th, notifying the court of his forthcoming resignation and asking for the case to be resigned to an available trial judge. An amended indictment charges Torrey with negligent homicide and aggravated assault as third-degree felonies. He was arrested for the 2015 fatal shooting of fellow police officer Albert Piolo. Initially, Torrey was charged with murder. However, in July 2019, the Supreme Court vacated his conviction. And now, in the second trial of the case, defense counsel Areola has motioned for dismissal with prejudice on the basis that his client's right to a speedy trial has been violated. Areola argues the Superior Court failed to properly assign a new judge to the case upon the resignation of Judge Bordalio. Areola subpoenaed the clerk of court, Danielle Rossetti, to provide testimony on the receipt from the January memo, the process of assigning a trial judge, and the court calendar and Torrey's case records from January 24th to February 20th. Baird and co-counsel Andrew Kenya represent the non-party, the Superior Court, and motion to quash the subpoena, arguing it's oppressive, unreasonable, a burden, and that the information has been provided through the Sunshine Act. In addition, the court attorneys argued that Rossetti cannot be compelled to testify regarding her mental processes and told the defense to subpoena the presiding judge. Ultimately, Judge Barcinas denied the motion, and unwillingly, Rossetti took the witness stand, allowing for the overlying motion to dismiss with prejudice be heard. During the testimony, Areola questioned why Judge Elise Iriarte was first assigned to the case, and then after her disqualification, why Judge Anita Socola was next in line, when both are not general jurisdiction judges and do not have jurisdiction over a third-degree felony case. As well, Rossetti told the defense counsel to ask the presiding judge. Following her testimony, Areola and Chief Prosecutor Basil O'Malley made arguments on the motion to dismiss. The defense went through the timeline from start to finish of the case, detailing the various delays. Areola concluded with, quote, I think after the clerk of court testified, we were all wondering, what are you hiding? Further, he stated, what goes on behind closed doors is what has to stop, because that's why clients are not given their speedy trial rights. That's where a defendant's rights are being violated, end quote. Judge Barcinas is taking the matter under advisement and will issue his decision. More from Superior Court. Jason Song was sentenced 8.5 years on charges related to the intent to deliver drugs and another 3 years for possession. The latter will be suspended if he completes the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment, or RSAT, program at the Department of Corrections. Additionally, Song will be receiving credit for the 3 years he served so far. Defense attorney Clyde Lemons indicated during today's sentencing, however, that he will be appealing the conviction. In November of last year, a jury found Song guilty on drug charges and not guilty of first and second degree criminal sexual conduct. And some familiar faces may be coming to an election near you. This as Guam Election Commission records show former Senators Judy Guthertz and Tony Ada have picked up candidate packets for the 2020 elections. GEC Director Maria Pangilinan tells KUAM she's seeing an uptick in the number of packet pickups and report filings. Former Chief of Police J.I. Cruz also filed his organizational report as a Republican senatorial candidate today. Incumbent Senators Kelly Marsh-Taitano, Jose Terlahi, Clint Rigel, Joe San Augustine, and Amanda Shelton have also picked up packets. New names include John Aninich, Vince Borja, Alejandro Gay, Dave Duenas, Daryl Taggarty, Ray Gibson, Candice Muña, Janine Guevara, Dominic Hernandez, and Bunker Meno have also picked up packets. You can view candidate lists at gec.guam.gov. And Zonia voters casting their ballots in the upcoming special election will have 6 mayoral candidates to choose from. GEC tells KUAM new Democrats include Ed Terlahi, Cedric Diaz, Ethan Camacho, Bill Kenya, Cristina Perez, and Rock Istacuo. Will likely join Republican Kiko Hitton on the ballot for the special vote to take place on March 28th. The GEC is meeting at this hour to ratify the candidates who filed the organizational reports and nominating petitions this week. The special election is to replace the mayoral seat vacated by former Mayor Jesse Blas. Polls open on March 28th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at MU Lujan Elementary School. And stick around for more news here on Prime Time.
Get up-to-the-minute news, plus access to alerts, streaming radio, promotions, and more on your mobile device by downloading the KUAM News mobile app, available at the App Store now.
Try double filet sandwich for double the flavor. Just in time for Lent for a limited time. Served all day.
It makes myself and it makes my team members very proud to work for an organization that has been on island for many years with its focus on reliability, dependability, and commitment to the communities that they operate in.
Matson's a great corporate citizen to the community.
We all benefit from any sort of environmental commitment we make. One of the ways that we do that is with our Adahi Utano program. There's action behind it, and so action breeds commitment.
With the Kaimana Gila coming to Guam, this brings a new age and modernization to the island.
It's exciting for me because it's a brand new ship and we can carry more freight into the islands. It just shows growth for Guam and Micronesia.
Matson would be nothing without its customers, and we hope to continue to serve you for decades to come.
Half the day, I'm in the club.
Half a day, welcome to Two Lovers Point.
Half a day, I'm in the club.
It's a